Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. I saw a T-shirt on somebody the other day, and it really struck a chord. And maybe chord is no pun intended, but there's a pun intended here. The shirt said, "Music is my therapy. Music is my therapy." And I thought about that. And it's true when you think about it, because we turn to music for many different reasons: to feel better, maybe to feel a memory, maybe to feel sadness. Sometimes that's okay. But it's being done for a reason. We don't just listen just because, I like that song. There's a reason you like that song. We're going to talk about those reasons, why music resonates, what's actually going on there with music within us. And this is something that she is well versed in. She offers music therapy. She's a board certified music therapist, has been for many decades, and helps a lot of people, including children, with her therapy, and that's Back Mountain Music Therapy. Antoinette Morrison joins us once again on the program. How you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you, Steve?
Real good. Real good. I try to figure this out. Like they say that music is universal. It's somebody in another country could hear a song that was produced here. They don't even know the lyrics and vice versa. And it even still makes an impression. What's going on there? Why is music so powerful?
I think a lot of times music can be more specific than maybe that's not the correct word, more accurate than language. Maybe language can be more specific with ideas. But I think they say music is a universal language. So all the elements of music can really relay emotions better. They say I think 93% of communication is language. So no, I'm sorry. No, 93% is not language. So that means, the way you say things, the affect in your voice, your posture. And so you can do those same things in music, the attack or the way you touch the instrument there that you're using, the tone, the intensity of what you're doing. And I think even in, different countries where the music is maybe based on a different scale, that maybe in we're used to Western music that we're not as familiar with. I think you can still kind of get the sense that they're trying to get across by the way the music is played.
Hmm. Well, that goes in line with, and this has been said many times, that people won't, or people may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Maya Angelou, yes,
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know. Wow.
yeah.
Hmm. I guess the feeling there comes from the music. What is what is going on when we listen to music, whether it's got words, whether we understand the words, whatever? What's invoking that emotion in us? How is it doing it?
I think if you're just randomly listening to music, everyone is kind of geared toward a certain type of music or certain things in the music. Just and that's how we work too. We look at what makes people tick. And so when you're listening to music and really getting into it, there's probably some kind of propensity in the music you're listening to that appeals to you already. Like I can just speak for myself. I know I like really mellow, kind of connected or legato music. I like piano music, probably I prefer.
Hmm.
Um, so I know there's certain chord progressions that catch my ear. And I think so we relate to what's familiar and what appeals to us.
There's also, I believe, a certain energy that's put into the music that
Yes.
somebody produces. And it's always been my belief that, why do only certain artists become popular? And that could be painters, that could be Van Gogh, that could be music artists, all of that. There are millions in the world, and there's so many millions of talented people. Why have only so many people made it? And it's not necessarily to, I believe it's the energy they put into it. There's something there, their signature that they put into it that we feel when we listen to it.
I think you're correct on that. I think even there are some voices, and I'm not going to name any names, but the voice is not all that tremendous, but it's what they're putting into it that makes
Mm,
them so popular. People
mm,
can feel what what they're putting into it, especially I think if it's their own music, people that write their own music and are allowed to perform it.
yeah.
I don't know how that goes with when you're cutting a record or whatever, what you're allowed to do, but if you're allowed to perform it the way it is most meaningful to you, I think that comes across to whoever's listening.
Mm. Have you ever listened to songs and looked at the lyrics or listened to the lyrics and tried to figure out what's going on there? And why do you keep listening to it? Like you keep going back. I'll go through periods of time where I'm listening to the same song over and over again. Like, what's going on here? Why is this grabbing me? It's a drive, honestly. It's Antoinette, it drives me crazy. I get hooked, and I don't have an addictive personality, far from, but I get hooked on something. I'm like, what is it? I haven't, there's a couple of songs I haven't, and nobody would know them. But they're from famous artists. I like to run deep. Yes, the popular stuff everybody would know, but other stuff too. I'm like, I haven't figured that out. You ever do that where you just don't know
Oh yeah.
why?
Well, I think I probably tend to overanalyze myself in this this
Sure.
area, but I think it depends on kind of where you are in your head, in your emotional state at the time, and what that music has in it. Maybe it isn't even the words. I tend to listen to that last,
Me
the
too.
word last. The music will grab me first, and I think it depends on what's going on in your life at that time and what's in that music that appeals to you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too how all of us have individual tastes,
Yes.
and what presses a button in me might not press a button in you, and vice versa.
Yes. I think that's why when people talk about recorded music as therapy, you can use it therapeutically for yourself. But you can't just, get a list of songs and say, here, this will be great. I think you have to be really paying attention to where that person is and what's going on with that music and that person.
Hmm. And that's why many of us love live music. Myself, I'm a live music junkie. I will seek anything out. I will see any live music. And it's challenging when I go with friends because I have to cherry pick because they're very like, I don't like that. I don't want to go to see that. All right, well, find somebody else, or go by myself, whatever it might be. Um, but in my understanding, with live music, you know the song, and you're always expecting the same beat and the same
Yes.
everything. When it's live, they can play it exactly like the recording, but it's going to be off a little bit. And that little bit of a surprise, I understand, and maybe scientific this is, it does something for you where it's different. It's not as expected. And I also think that when you work with people, especially children, when they don't know what's coming next, that's kind of the surprise and the maybe the motivator. Tell me about that.
I think I'm gonna back that up a little bit.
Sure.
So the predictability, I think, makes music appealing
Hmm.
because it's easy to catch on to. We know what's going to come next.
Yes.
But what you said about, that that's where the therapy's happening. We set that, musical background of predictability and
Yep.
safety,
Yep.
and
Yep.
we match right up to that client. So we're giving that client what appeals to them. And then when we add in those unexpected things, that's where we kind of start to do our work. And then you only give a client as much as they can handle at that moment.
It's a great point, and I see it clearer now because We crave familiarity.
Yes.
And that's you said the word, safety. So when it's the same beat, you feel comfortable. Even if you've only heard the song for the first time, after the first five beats, you know the next one. So it's like, I'm good. I feel comfortable. I know where this is going. But then sometimes you might add, some color from other instruments, along with that beat. And I guess maybe that's where the exploration comes in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the predictability keeps that song your familiar song, and then as you add something new, it's new, but it's within a familiar, safe environment. So you can start to develop wherever you need to develop, I guess, safely and with some confidence.
I don't play music. I play it on the radio, have for years. So I'm not a musician and I'm not a vocalist. Why is it when you're listening to something live
Okay.
and something is off, like a note, somebody plays a piano and it's off, and you're like, what's going on there? We're music fundamental here, but it's all the big picture. When a note is, and I'll be honest, I was at church the other day, fantastic band. It's all sometimes different people. And I think a piano note was a little off. They were hitting something that just wasn't meshing with the rest. And I was like, caught my attention. What's happening there?
I guess there could be a couple of things, but I think if it's not the sound that you're used to or that your brain is predicting, because your brain is always predicting what's going to happen next,
Hmm.
it can be a little jarring. Now, if it's a wrong note and the musician isn't finessed at kind of fitting that in and making it go someplace, it may be more noticeable and uncomfortable, or just because it's different. Like I think sometimes teenagers that have a favorite song, it could be the exact same song, but you put a different vocalist and it's just not, they don't want to hear it. It's
Hmm.
just not their song, the way
Hmm.
uh, I'm sure that happens with other people. I've noticed that the most with teenagers, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
the predictability thing. You just brought back a thought. I was having dinner on Saturday night, and I was at this Mexican place, and there was a little combo playing. It was fun. It was playing, and the person I was with was like, "Oh, you know that song? That's blah blah blah." I cannot, usually not, identify songs when somebody else is playing them. You could take the original version of a song and play one note. I'll get it. You could go in the middle of a song, or you could take that song and sample it and put it in other songs, and I'll say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I know what that song was. It came out in 1975, and it's top
oh,
five hit."
wow.
But when
Wow.
somebody else plays it, I'm lost. Most times, I'm like, I know it, but I can't. And other people are like, yeah, don't you realize what song that is? My brain is like programmed. So to your point of the predictability, you just realize, what's in you, and I guess maybe that goes back to what we deal with and what you deal with in helping people. Let's say traumas from their childhood.
Right.
And many believe that um, the challenges we have in life now come from our childhood. Call it a trauma, and that word is very strong. So I'm not necessarily talking about a big event like a car
Big T,
accident,
little T.
divorce.
Right.
Yeah, just something you internalize. Somebody said something to you, a little tiny thing. It was maybe you passed the kitchen and you heard something that wasn't even for you, but you internalized it and that held you back. You go back to that, like you go back to music. How, when you work with somebody, how does the healing start? How does it work applied to music?
Okay, so I'm assuming you're kind of talking about traumas in adults when you're referring. So
Correct.
I'm gonna answer it that way.
Sure, sure.
Um, I think in my personal opinion, when it comes to trauma, is it takes as long as it takes with each individual. You have to feel your sense of safety. And so it can take a long time to build that sense of safety because it's not just in the music, but it's also in the musical relationship between the therapist and the client. Um, I'm sorry. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
How, when you identify a challenge in a child, let's go there. Maybe give an example of what a child may be struggling with and how you use music to help them.
Okay, so we were talking about familiarity and predictability. I just had a kiddo this morning, um, nonverbal kiddo, and he's came in very inattentive. There's some sensory things going on, but he knows the tune to the ABCs. So that ABC catches his attention. It's known before he walked in this office. So I might take that ABC to catch his attention and appeal to what he already knows and is safe with, and then kind of play around with that and see what I can do with that with him, with that, familiar tune. Sometimes it's a familiar tune that I work off of. Sometimes it's just, improvising to what the client is showing me, telling me, in their posture and the way they move and the way they react to sights and sounds. And then continually watching that client and kind of seeing where they're getting stuck, maybe in the safety. And
Mm.
maybe at that one, if they're getting stuck in the safety, maybe then we have to change things up a little bit. Or maybe we have to change things up a lot for the particular client within that same framework.
And how often do you have a client interact with you musically? Like a child, hand them a drumstick or something like that.
Oh, I think it varies here all the time. We have clients here that almost all the session is continual music for 30 minutes, 45 minutes straight. And then we have clients that might leave the music for a little while. Some adults that might want to talk a little bit,
Hmm.
and come back to the music. But I can take those things we do in this clinic anyways. If they leave the music, take those same elements of music that we know well and use them within the interaction, whether it's talking or moving or mm, whatever the client is doing at that point.
Wow. Um, what are some of the things that you've helped even adults with? We kind of focused on children
Sure.
in the past and even a little bit today. What challenges have you helped adults struggling through?
I think uh, some of the adults getting back to some of their traumas going on and recognizing when they have a behavior where that's even coming from.
Hmm.
Um, and then trying to get through that and recognize it when it's happening and start to move to a different place, because that behavior is your brain protecting you again, taking the familiar and saying, uh-oh, here it goes again. But maybe they're stuck and that behavior does not serve current conditions. So we have to
Hmm.
kind of take a look at, okay, what's going on here? Um, you know, why is this behavior not serving you? Or why is it serving you right now? We don't want to rip it away if it might not be good for everybody else out there, but at that moment, it may be serving the client's purpose. So you have to walk safely with that, uh, carefully with that, I think.
For you personally, which came first in your journey, the music or the therapy?
Um, I think definitely the music. Very, very young, my mom noticed that I just took towards pianos. And so I think the music came first.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
I think
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think every time I would ask my students, I think most of the time you'll hear the answer that, why'd you go into the music therapy? Because I liked music, and those two things just seemed to, when they heard it, just seemed to make so much sense. I think that's a frequent story I hear with music therapists.
I envy you and others who can play. I really do. Like I'll go and see a performance and just in my mind, that's me playing bass, which I could. Uh, and never say never, but it's I don't think I have the patience. I don't think I have the patience, but I love what comes out of an instrument and how it makes people feel and all of that. Um, but there's something, it's a talent. There's just something in musicians.
Well, I think it depends on how you got there. Like there's musicians, and I started out with more of a classical style with the regimented lessons, but then there's some of the musicians, the very famous Victor Wooten, even like if you listen to anything he says, he started out as a kid. That was his play. That was his play. And so for him, it was just natural.
Mm.
Everything that he did from there, just, like the rest of us walking and talking. So I kind of think it depends on, um, how how you came into music.
Yeah, I see this clear. For me, this was my play. I'm not even kidding. I was
Yep.
9 years old. I didn't have any money, single mom. I taught myself electronics, how to make PC boards so I
Yes.
could build a mixer, so I could play like this. I didn't have a microphone. I ripped it out of a cassette deck and made it look like a microphone, with I think it was a toilet paper roll and
Oh,
but it sounded good. And then that led to making tapes, and that led to my first job when I didn't have a driver's license because it was in me. So now I
yeah.
see, for many people, music is in them. You got the music in you,
Yes.
and then
It has to be that joy from whatever kind of play, however that starts out, that you can go so into deep thinking through not having to, do it right all the time, just because you enjoy it. Just because you enjoy it.
I bet you if you look at the lives of every or many successful musicians and artists, it probably started in their childhood where they already had an affinity. They were already loving it. They were already, just enjoying messing around with music, be it,
Yes.
stage presentation in elementary school. And there it kind of began. I don't think you see many that, I was 28, picked up a guitar, and now I have a number one song. Usually not the case.
Right, right.
Fascinating.
Although there are some that do, get to their 20s and do some basic stuff and start writing their own songs and just, fall into it by ear too. Not
Yeah.
often, but
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah. But somewhere, I believe in their DNA. Somewhere there, it was there. It was music was in them. It just didn't come out until later in life, where they started realizing it. Um, it's amazing what it does, the communication, what comes from it, and now the therapy, as we learned with you. Uh,
Oh,
Fascinating.
and music has really the basic learning blocks to learn, basic steps in learning, I think. I mean, rhythm. We're born right into rhythm, day, night, hours of the day,
Yeah.
sleep cycles, the even melody, there's a direction that we're going, that we can hear. There's a
Mm.
direction that we're going with some predictability in what we do each day.
Yeah. For sure. And when you think about that, a child in their mother's womb, they're hearing music,
Yes.
mommy's heartbeat,
Yep. Yeah.
and even it's
Yes.
it's there from the beginning.
And
That's
when you
amazing.
have that so regularly and,
Yeah,
in the warmth, it's a very comfortable, safe environment.
and natural
Yes.
when you're born and life
Yep.
continues. Um, for anybody that wants to learn more about what you do in helping people, Antoinette, how do we find you? What's your website?
It's backmountmusictherapy.com, and we're in Dallas, Pennsylvania. Um, there's a phone number right on the website, 570-574-1707.
Wonderful talking with you. Thank you for making us understand, helping us understand what's going on here with music. I don't think you could walk down the street and ask anybody, "Hey, do you not like music?" Nobody's going to say no. Nobody's, it's just, you can't, you know?
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.